Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Best of Pedalshift. On this edition, we go all the way back to October 2015 for the first in a multi-part stretch here on The Best of Pedalshift. We're going to be rebroadcasting a multi-part extravaganza with Sprocket Dittus and his lovely wife, Adele. We did this on Pedalshift Project 031 this month, and 032, which we'll do next month. But I also would encourage you to go check out, dig into the archives, dig into the crates over at the Sprocket Podcast website. Now, I know they have not been putting out episodes lately, but the website still exists. Check out Sprocket Podcast episode 259 to complete the trifecta. So listen to this episode this month, this best of. Go check out Sprocket Podcast episode 259. Maybe listen to that first because it might have come out first. And then, of course, next month we'll be doing episode 032. What are we covering, pray tell? On this episode, bicycle touring F-ups. However, this is going to be an episode that we don't use the non-family-friendly version. Actually, flip that, reverse it. We are going to be using the non-family-friendly version of the word. So fair warning for those of you who are with families, with kids, with anybody. If you are not into the salty language that I occasionally will do on this podcast, but try not to, and I fail a lot, it appears in this particular episode. Lots of fun. I'm very nostalgic listening to this episode of the fun times that we had on the old shows, and well, they're the truly best of shows. Enjoy.
Oh, are we live?
I feel like it. Well, you're recording.
What episode is this of Pedalshift?
This is episode 030.
Yeah.
No, wait.
031?
031.
Oh, 031.
I don't want to record over that last one.
Excuse me.
Yeah, episode 31.
Very important.
I'm here with
It'd be terrible if I could do that.
Brock and Adele.
Whoops, we deleted it. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Adele, thank you for joining. This was
my pleasure. Yeah.
Originally, I thought it was going to be Brock and Aaron, and then maybe whoever else. And now I'm so happy to have you on the show. I never got a chance to meet you.
Well, good.
So.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah. Well, you rock. Well, so obviously we've been talking about some music. I don't know how much of this intro stuff is going to go in. So we'll see.
You should look for sir.
Yeah, a separate podcast feed for like Brock and Tim talk 90s music.
Brock wants to do a music podcast.
I actually do.
So,
dude, we could do a whole episode on NXS. I could talk about NXS for a long time, as most people who know me do. It's kind of sad. And then Danny Warhols. Are you freaking kidding me?
Oh man.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do like a limited series.
Okay,
we'll talk later.
Yeah.
All right. So on this episode of the Sprocket Podcast, Jesus.
Oh yeah.
I'm in the
gears.
Sprocket Podcast studios, but we're now talking about Pedalshift. And if you have not listened to what episode of Sprocket Podcast was that?
That was episode 259. To be followed shortly by episode 260.
Episode 259 and episode 260?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, I appeared on the Sprocket Podcast, and we had a great time talking about all sorts of stuff. On this episode of Pedalshift, the Pedalshift Project, because it's a project. Because it is.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I was sort of like, I started this off as the Pedalshift Project because I didn't know if the podcast was going to take off. I had the website first, and I was just like, oh, this will be resources, community, whatever. And then I was like, I like podcasting. I can do podcasting.
So it's less pressure if it's a project.
Exactly, yeah.
See?
And then I think a few months...
let yourself off the hook.
Totally. And then a few months ago, I asked the listeners because all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, I got people that actually listen to this show. And it's not just me, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, ladies and gentlemen, which, by the way, and it makes me so happy that it's ladies and gentlemen because it's like, I feel like that bike touring for so long was sort of like just like white dudes, you know?
It's really easy to find white dudes when I talk about bike touring.
Exactly. Especially graybeard white dudes like me.
Unusual if you're a solo lady bike tourist.
Yeah.
Mysterious Alexis was a solo lady bike tourer. And now she's with
Solo no longer.
Solo no longer. They're in South America. But yeah, so.
He fixed that pretty quick.
Fixed that problem. Mansplained that. Yeah. But no, I'm so happy that it's like that the audience is like a little bit, you know, at least a little bit diverse, and it's like
multi-gendered and multicultural.
Multicultural, multi-countryed. Hello, Canada.
What's up, Canada?
Hello, Australia.
I'm so glad Canada is another country. It's such a great boon to be like, we're international because Canadians are part of this.
Anybody in New Zealand?
I haven't run into a Kiwi yet.
Okay.
I think I've had definitely some Aussies reach out, and I believe somebody in Germany has reached out in the past.
Okay.
By the way, okay, well, let's do this because we're in front of a microphone. If you're, do you have the soundboard?
Oh, do you want it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Since I have advantage of Brock's fingertips.
Sprocket's soundboard here.
Is this going to be a really angry call to action?
No.
Okay.
This is the Pedalshift Project. Please, if it's okay by you, and you're in Europe or another country that is not the United States, please
it'd be neat if you just reached out, because I'd like to know, who's not American, who's like listening to this show. If it's okay with you, that'd be kind of cool. So thanks.
But not if you don't want to. Sorry.
You're not Canadian, Brock. It's okay. You're close to Canadian, though.
I'm North Dakotan, I think.
You're very
at
close.
heart.
As many listeners of my show know, I grew up practically in Canada. I grew up in Western New York, so close to the border that I know more about Canadian politics in Canada than many Canadians do. When I was in Calgary on a book tour with my girlfriend, and I was talking to the husband of the woman who was hosting us, and we were just shooting this shit about stuff, and he's like, "You really know a lot about Canada, eh?" And I was just like,
yes, I do.
I was like, yes, I do.
Do you have dual citizenship?
No.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that or interesting, depending on your point of view.
Interesting.
Apparently, my grandfather was a code breaker. He was breaking Nazi codes in World War II, which is my favorite story to tell of my lineage. And he was in Newfoundland during all of this. And apparently...
You mean Newfoundland?
Newfoundland, depending on what part of Canada you're from.
You've newly found this land.
Or if you're a dumb American who saw it on a map from the West Coast when he was 9.
I am scaring away all Canadian listeners right now. So I love you, Pete. I love you.
Put that on me. It's my fault.
Yeah, I can say Toronto right.
Can you?
I didn't know there was a right way to say Toronto.
With all due respect, that is not the right way.
Oh.
It's Toronto.
Yeah.
Or you can even say T-O. Now all the Canadian people are like, that's not what we say. Loser.
Right.
Anyways, I thought on the show we would talk a little bit about, because we're going to be vulgar and we're going to be drinking, we're going to continue drinking more
We've
beer.
been drinking.
We've been
shall
drinking.
continue
If
to.
it's not obvious by now.
The tense in the
floor
Greek
right
language
here.
is the aorist.
Yes. We're going to talk about bike touring fuck-ups.
Yes.
Because I think that I have learned more through my mistakes and through the learning of the mistakes of others. And I know that both of you have done multiple tours, and I know both of you have been very public about your fuck-ups on tour. And I think it would be kind of
To
fun
an extent.
We're perfect. We tour perfectly. What are you saying?
I have never made a mistake
make mistakes.
once. Yeah.
No, but
I'm open about it because A, I've learned a ton about it, and B, I think it's funny. I mean,
it's a much better
they're
story.
always the best stories.
Oh, totally.
Bike tours that go well, there's nothing to say about them. There really isn't. You're like, and then we went to this place, and it was pretty.
And I didn't get a flat the entire time that I biked from Canada to Mexico, which is true, by the way, everyone. Hello. Thank you, Schwalbe Marathons.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We did not get a single flat this last summer.
That's
either.
right.
I have to say they're stupid expensive, but they're great tires. They really are.
They're
I'm on
worth it.
record on that. But then of course I'm in Albany, New York. I've never gotten a flat on these tires. They've gone down the entire Pacific Coast, and I'm on Central Avenue. A friend of the show, Ethan Georgie, because he's like, "You were biking on Central Avenue, you stupid fool." And it was the end of my tour across New York State, and I was going to get to the place where I was going to pick up my rental car, and I'm literally 2 miles away. 2 miles away from where the end of my tour. I've biked across the entire Empire State, the state of my birth, and then all of a sudden I get a nail stuck into my tire, and it's like,
no.
And so
we have multiple times at the end of our tours just had Brock actually.
Yeah.
Just everything fall apart. Like last summer when we got back from Glacier, we got back to the gorge and we're coming back. It's our last day coming through the Columbia Gorge, and he gets a flat out before Multnomah Falls.
Sounds good.
Yep. Or I did, or something. And then, maybe I got the flat. And then we got closer, and then your tire started to have that, like, bubble out
Have you
the
ever
side.
had this, Tim?
Oh,
Where,
yes, I have.
the tire rubber itself, like, there's something about the tire
it
pressure.
herniates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just this, like, tumor, like, and it
I've told
looked
this story.
really gross.
I told this story before. That was the fuck it, we're doing it live story
Yeah.
that I told. That's how it started.
And you're like, what
herniates
is
from the sidewall?
What's this noise? It's like suddenly there's something
Rubbing against your brake pad.
against your fender.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too close because I was like, what is the air pressure? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And then your frame just broke. Like the last day,
Totally.
on the last day of that tour, your frame just like fell apart and was like, I'm done.
Right.
So it's just funny how
Thanks
it's
for all the good stories.
good
yeah.
that it can happen on the last
So you
day.
were on probably 1,000-mile tour, and then you're in Multnomah Falls. What's that? 30 miles away?
Yeah, maybe
If
40.
We're talking 3 hours on a slow ride back.
Yeah.
3 hours.
But it's almost like your bike knows. It's like, I'm almost home. I'm done. And then just like, I'm done. And it just doesn't
It's
want
sort
to
of like you're
go
done with a big
anymore.
project, and then that next day you get sick.
Yes,
Yes, it's
the same thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like holding out strong and then just dying.
And this is where I totally believe in superstition. It's like I'm not a superstitious guy. I don't have a lot of like esoteric beliefs, but there's also the whole thing of like, you don't talk about flat tires around your bike because it might happen.
He's very superstitious about that. I talk about flat tires around my bike, and it's usually okay.
Statistically, you get more of them.
Do I?
I think so.
Are you sure?
Well, no.
Is there a statistic
agency?
Is there an agency that keeps track of Adele's flats? Do we have actual statistics on that?
There's not.
I am not superstitious by nature, but I am positive the fact that I, on the Tour Journals podcast, said, I really like these Schwalbe Marathon tires. I haven't ever had a flat on them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And wasn't that like right before you also got a flat on your rental car?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the best part. Did you hear this part?
No.
Okay, so I get the flat 2 miles away from where I'm going to pick up the rental car, and I'm like, ha ha.
On the worst road in Albany.
On the worst road in Albany, as we all know, is Central Avenue, because Albany, right?
Central.
Yeah, I know.
The
Central
worst.
to everything.
Yeah. And what's weird is that is New York Bike Route 5. That is actually a bike route.
Okay.
Not recommended.
Oh dear.
Or use the sidewalk, or I don't know, just don't.
Or rent a car.
It's Albany rocks, but that was not super not ideal. Anyway, so like I get to the car rental place, I change the rear tire, I make my little Instagram video. Hey, look at me, I'm all cool. Hey, whatever. And then I get there and I jam the bike, and it's so horrible to do this to your bike, your steed, and you're taking the tires off and you're jamming it into the trunk.
I'm tired of you.
Well, no, I'm doing this. I'm going. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like we've been together. You've been my home. You've been my transportation. Now get into the trunk of a late model Nissan Altima. Thank you. And then within 2 miles, I'm on the New York State Thruway going back east towards my parents' place, and all of a sudden I see the little indicator going, bing. And I'm like, oh, that's peculiar. And I don't know. I'm like, oh wow, there must be a sensor blown. Why is it I always assume it's the sensor being wrong rather than the
right? Something wrong.
This
with
data
the car.
can't be right.
So I stop at the rest stop because I want to use the restroom. I want to get some, get a bottle of water or something like that. And I get out and I see that the car has a flat. And I'm like, and it's within an hour of me changing the flat on my bike. I mean, 2 consecutive, pneumatic tires in me on that day did not really work out very well.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Stuff it with newspaper.
And the one thing I would say about that, I mean, these are fuck ups in your tour, but they're sort of like fuck ups that are more like acts of God against you. I'm talking about things where we make stupid choices.
We made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, my best story is, of course, the flood story, which listeners of the show, man, there's fairly bunch of new people. I'll give the Cliff's Notes version of it, and in the show notes I'll embed yet again the video of me that I made.
It was a good video.
I'm glad I documented it. It was pretty funny. It's funny now. In the moment, not so much. I decided to go on a small bike tour on the C&O Trail, which is right next to the Potomac River, and I did it on a day of massive flood warning rains.
Oh, so you knew?
Oh, I knew that. I knew. And then I'm in my tent, on Twitter because that's what I guess I do at midnight. And I'm like sitting because I knew. I was like I got out and I looked down and I looked at the river. The river level seemed fine.
Was it raining at the time?
No, the rains
not yet.
The rains had finished.
Oh.
Except the problem is that, as many hydrologists would tell you, the rains go someplace and then they flow elsewhere. And so there's this essentially wall of water coming down the Potomac. And so I'm like going, oh, well, it's fine. The trail's a little muddy. It's cool, though. It's all good. And then I look on Twitter and I see Harper's Ferry has a National Historic Site, John Brown and all that, right? Very, very picturesque, interesting town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been there.
Interesting.
I've seen it.
Hashtag interesting.
It is.
And
there's even a ferry still.
Yeah. I look on their Twitter feed and they're like, floodwater is at 15 feet above. It's going to be a long night.
Oh, no.
And I was like, that's upriver from me, huh? And I'm like 10 miles down from there, or 20 miles down, and I'm like, so water flows at about this rate, and I'm just sort of like, that's when I get out of the tent and it's pitch black, and I'm using my iPhone flashlight to get to the riverbank, and I'm looking down, and instead of the nice picturesque, so slowly flowing Potomac River, all of a sudden it's just a freaking torrent, and there's like trees coming down, and
so much water.
Oh my God! And I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to bed and assume everything will be cool. That was my fuck up. Because the next morning, as all of you have heard the story know, I put my hand down I'm looking up in the mesh of my tent, and I see a bajillion bugs, technical term. And I put my hand down, and it's like a waterbed. And I get out of the tent, and please go look at the video. But like, there's water everywhere as far as the eye can see. I'm rolling through like 3 feet of water. It's like coming up, like when I'm pedaling, my feet go under the water as I'm pedaling along.
So you slept through the water?
I totally slept through it. It just sort of seeped in, and that's the
like
trick
a
with
gentle
like
cushion.
The old tsunami thing that you're thinking about with flood. That's not how it works. It just sort of slowly rises up, like a bathtub overflowing.
Like in the Johnny Cash song, that flood takes a while.
Thank you.
6 feet high and rising.
Yeah.
How high's the water, Mama?
Yeah. Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah. That speaks to the efficacy of your tent, though, because it was waterproof. Didn't leak in.
Not in. What was it?
It wasn't floodproof.
I put like something on the bottom of it, like not an inch of water came in. I remember when you guys first talked about it. You said you were like not an inch of water or something like that. It was funny. Go check out the video. It's in the show notes. I'll put it in there. But it was funny. That was my big fuck up, and the fuck up was I didn't respect weather.
Right.
And normally I do, and normally I pay attention to that kind of stuff. And
weather doesn't care.
Weather doesn't care. And when you decide after major thunderstorms to camp next to a river, literally next to a river, there is the possibility of issues there. So my word to the wise, and the lesson that I learned there was, remember hydrology. And, I didn't have to. I really wanted to go out. Like that weekend, I had circled on the calendar. It was the only weekend I could do for a while. It was early in the season. It was in May, as I recall. So it was like my first real getting out there. And I was just so enthusiastic about it. But I really, really, really could have gotten into some serious trouble. I mean, luckily, some of my shit got wet. But like, I ended up having a really good story and a really good video. So maybe this is a bad example, but maybe I didn't learn my lesson.
I was going to say, understand hydrology just
and
well
I would
enough.
do it again.
Yes, and don't do it again unless it's a good story. In which case, do it.
Sleep in like a raft, like bring an inflatable raft and just sleep in the raft.
Oh, I would have ended up out at sea at that point. Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about fuck ups, we were camping out, not bike touring, but just with some friends at a lake, and you and I, Adele, tried to sleep in an inflatable raft, and it turns out.
So you did do this?
Yeah, it turns out all the heat.
Yes.
And this sounds like a mistake.
Yes, it was a mistake. Well, it was like we were camping and we were just going to go out for the day. No, sorry. We were just going to go out to the mountains in Washington for the day. So we didn't bring our sleeping bags or tent or anything. And then we got there. We were having so much fun. And our friends were like, you should stay. So we were like, there's an inflatable raft that could fit 2 of us, like lying side by side in it.
Right.
So we decided to float it. Like, how romantic would this be if we floated it on the
Super
lake?
romantic.
And we go to sleep in this lovely lake on this raft.
So chilly.
And it's so soft. And we woke up. Well, we didn't sleep.
Yeah.
But it was so freezing. So then the only option from there was to move to the hammock, which also has no insulation.
Right. Oh, are we passing this around here?
Oh, I like this.
Ooh, this is the
take a swing.
The Pesh mode from Double Mountain. It's a sour.
As far as like biking fuck ups, Brock, did you have one in mind?
Especially if it was your fault.
Ooh, that's really good. Yes, I did actually.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is.
And then Adele, think of one that was your fault.
That's all my fault. Oh, nothing's ever
You're like,
my fault.
Never. You're like,
I planned so
you're
well.
Like, pass.
Can I share 2 that come to mind immediately?
That's what this episode's about.
One was the idea that we were riding out of Yellowstone and towards the Grand Tetons, and the only store available we camped somewhere. I want to say Grant,
it was a really big one.
Grant Campground, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, it had a store.
Yeah. So we had picked up some stuff there, but we picked up...
Do you remember what we ate for breakfast?
Yes, we had like the bear claw.
Burritos.
Poor choices. No, poor choice.
Because you guys are the king of the burritos.
Yeah,
and king and queen, excuse me.
Oh, queen. Yeah, don't forget the
Thank you.
ladies. No, it was
because the ladies.
Danishes.
Yeah, it was like
a
like a cheese Danish.
A plastic wrapped thing of cinnamon raisin Danishes.
Totally. And so, we were just like, hey, this will taste amazing, but not super calorically dense necessarily and not like nutritionally sound. So it was a thing that you would have to worry about, just like, hey, will this get me to where I'm going? But then after that, we stop on the way to the Grand Tetons. There's like a lounge, or what was it?
It was a hotel.
A hotel, yes.
With a lounge.
With a lounge
and
in
a
it.
small store.
I should think of the hotel first. So the store that was there had a limited selection of things, but they had like Tostitos queso.
Oh, good Lord.
And like the chips, and I'm like, we're on bike tour. We're burning calories like crazy. I'm going to eat stuff that I like.
Point of order. Was this Tostitos queso in the refrigerated section, or was it the kind that was in that like jar that's next to the chips that is non-refrigerated?
I believe it was non-refrigerated.
Definitely a jar. Yeah. It was a jar.
Preserved.
Oh.
Yeah. Plastic cheese.
Yes. So, thank you. Just going to keep passing this bottle around.
We're passing around. Let's pretend there's a campfire in front of us, and we're just passing around our sour here.
I need that sound effect. So we were there. We ate these things. We ate like that and something else. It was something else that looked good, but it was probably like not
so we
super
ate
calorically
sugar
dense.
for breakfast with no nutritional value, and then we ate queso and tortilla chips for lunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So not a good combination. So we end up down near the Grand Tetons, and the way that it all worked out was that I just like ran out of energy. I had eaten the wrong kinds of things and not enough of them. And so by the time I got there, I hit the full-on, like they call it the bonk. When your body runs out of energy reserves. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you've burned all your fat, but it does mean that you've used up all the available energy. Any more energy that you need is going to come from your body, like heating up these fat molecules, and that takes energy. So your brain and your muscles just start to kind of shut down. We stopped at this store because we were going to get some food or something, and I just ran out. I mean, you can describe better than I, because I don't remember a lot of it, Adele. But
well, I went into the store, and I was trying to select some dinner options, and I was asking Brock for his opinion, and I was like, Brock, would you rather have instant mashed potatoes or instant macaroni and cheese? Help me out. And what would you like? And he was just like, I don't know.
I'm just like staring into the middle distance. Yeah,
I can't. And I think were we going to go further? Or no, we had decided on that campground that was right there.
Yeah, inside the park.
But yeah, he just like blanked out. And there was a fellow bike tour.
Yeah, a guy shows up. He's asking us the questions you do when you meet a bike tourist.
Where are you from? How far have you? And Brock's standing there. Yeah. And I'm like, Brock, help me out. This guy was solo touring, and he'd been like in Alaska. So he was like really starving to talk to somebody.
Big social needs.
So he like targeted me, and I was like taking the full brunt of his like loneliness on
myself.
I'm
there, calorically deficient, unable to help.
And he like kept looking at Brock like, hey, when's that guy gonna talk to? And Brock was just looking like a zombie, like staring off into the trees.
You're like, he doesn't talk.
And
stop asking me
questions.
This
guy is like talking to me about the midnight sun, and I'm just like, oh, that's great. I'm like, how can I get out of here? And I was like, why isn't Brock like helping me out? And
well, and we've talked about.
I was kind of mad at you because I was like, why aren't you helping me get out of this conversation? And you were just done, like totally done.
Sometimes I already have a problem with like people who have these social needs, and I don't have them, and so I'm not super compassionate. I'm like, I don't want to have a long conversation just because we both happen to have bikes.
That's a whole other phenomenon, is like the solo bike tour, and I've been there, so I empathize. The solo bike tour who really needs to just talk to someone for a really long time,
right? And so like I was kind of in this like I only had like a tethered connection to reality, but the tethered connection that I had was me kind of like hating this guy for standing there while I was unable to respond.
Why are you not a bag of Fritos?
Why are you not something more substantive? Why are you not a can of chili? So it was, that was one of the things. The other one that comes to mind is when I decided I was going to take a tour solo, not pay for camping, and just sleep out under the stars.
Oh, this is a good one.
2010 in the summer. It was June.
Adele's like, this is a colossal fuck up. Just wait.
Yes. So it was the summer solstice, which is the longest daylight you can get in my hemisphere, my latitude or whatever. And so I had this ideal, and it worked out really well for the first couple nights, because the first night I stayed at my friend's house out near the gorge, and the second night I stayed in a windy spot underneath Stonehenge. There's a Stonehenge replica up on the north banks of the Columbia River. And that morning I woke up and I was like, I'll ride to this place. And then when I got there, I was like, it's so early. Maybe I'll just keep on going. Maybe I'll do 100 miles. And so I did. But when I got to the eventual end destination, I had heard it was going to be free camping. It was not. Also, they didn't allow tenters because that was like the day of the week that they like water their lawn or something.
Oh, no.
In the desert. So they turn me around. They say, no, sorry. I look for a couple of different places I could kind of stealth camp without having to pay for it myself. And I end up at this place that's technically a wildlife refuge, but there's also some trash. And most of the wildlife that
trash refuge.
Most of the wildlife that take refuge there are the kind that crawl and get into your bags, and the kind that crawl under your skin and bite you. So I'm laying there on a really hot day. Sun hasn't gone down yet, And I'm wearing all my layers because I'm like, oh, this will protect me against those mosquitoes. I'm sleeping right next to the still water of the Columbian estuary there, and just trying to sleep. But I'm also right next to the train tracks, and there's a freight train that goes by every half hour or sooner.
Because of course.
Right. And so I'm just laying there trying to sleep. I really have fitful sleep because all night I'm sleeping, even when it gets dark. And the train's still going by every like half hour or whatever. And then I wake up in the morning, and I look inside my buckets. I was still touring with the City Bike style bucket where you just convert it with a couple of pieces of hardware so you can hang it on your bike rack. And those buckets, I had some Pabst in them because I had taken this along from the couple days before when I was staying at my friend's house. And it turns out the Pabst had exploded or ruptured or something inside the bucket. And so all of my stuff smelled like Pabst, which doesn't smell good already, and then it goes stale and smells worse. So I think it had leaked out onto my emergency cell phone, so that didn't work anymore. And I was just miserable. So I went...
What's your lesson? Bring better beer?
Yes, definitely. Make sure your beer containers...
Put your emergency cell phone in a Ziploc bag.
I would say no wind. Well, Ziploc bags honestly are a thing. Like, we don't do that often enough. But when you do travel and you keep a bunch of different kinds of things in your bags, it's not worth it's not a problem. If you want to have a barrier between like whatever liquid you're carrying and the other things that you want to keep dry, use as many Ziploc bags as you want to. It seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah, it's more of like a backpacking strategy.
Sure.
Which transfers really well to bike touring.
Yeah.
But we don't really do it.
Know when it's a good idea to pay for bike touring. Like if you want to pay for a campsite. Yeah. Do the pay thing over like finding a shitty place to camp where you won't have a good rest, because you need rest to do more bike touring. And if you are going to free camp, choose a place that will let you do that easily, as opposed to not.
It's hard in the moment because you just want a place to plunk down, and you're
right.
not going to be like, oh, I'm going to wait here and see if a train goes by.
And sometimes there aren't a lot of options. I mean, especially out that direction.
Right. There's really not.
Because when I was going to be doing the tour out, I was going to be doing a modified Lewis and Clark Northern Tier route last year. And instead, of course, the temperatures in the Northwest have changed since I've lived here. I don't know if you guys understand that the thermostat has somehow been turned up.
It's getting hotter.
No, I deny that.
Dude, you know what's crazy is I was just talking to my brother about this, and I need to look back on the weather data from 1996. The summer of 1996 was the greatest summer in the history of Portland, Oregon. I have this theory because it was amazing. I was studying for the bar exam.
Best ever?
Best summer ever. Hashtag. And interesting. But it was like, I don't think that maybe a couple of days the entire summer it went above 85, maybe. And of course everybody complained that it was above 85, right?
Yeah.
But like now you guys had a 103 like for 6 days in a row or some nonsense. It's just crazy. I think Portland, Oregon this summer was hotter than Washington D.C. for most of the summer.
Yeah.
It's sort of insane.
Yeah.
So
climate might be changing.
Yeah, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with anything that humans are doing.
Absolutely not.
Except for the science.
All up for debate. Yep.
Yes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, just saying.
Maybe it's the beer talking.
Yeah.
But I think that humanity may have something to do with these.
It's an honesty brew.
Yeah. But weather is different than climate because I need to be honest about data and science. So there we go.
That is true.
There we go.
Let's just see what next summer is like.
That's me being fair and balanced.
Stick around for next summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were your fuck-ups. And I'm thinking my fuck-ups had to do a lot with just napping. I think.
Ooh, I like this.
Part of them are partner fuck-ups. So
she's basically blaming you for at least this contributory negligence.
Actually,
fuck-up.
Both of the big ones I will maybe place on Brock's shoulders, but I had a small one this summer.
Okay. She's pulling in the peach
Pesh mode.
Pesh mode, yes.
Yeah.
The sour. By the way, it's done. This episode of the podcast, we are imbibing a couple of sours, which are sort of my new favorite beer style.
Yeah.
One of them is actually from my sister-in-law's new employer's brewery, the Almanac Brewery out of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to it because of her, but I'll give it a plug because it is my favorite sour, and we're about to open that up in a little bit. So.
There it is.
Yeah.
Actually, okay, I thought of another one that I'll share that's not a mapping and not due to Brock. But so the first one, okay, we've all had our dehydration stories. This kind of falls into it, but I never had this before this summer, and it was kind of humbling because so Brock and I went on a 3-week-long bike tour this summer, from like Sacramento up to Tahoe and then back to Oregon, and it was wonderful. And it was very hot. You know, obviously, as we were just saying, the summer was super hot, but we planned really well with water. Like those 3 weeks, we're going through California. There's no water here. No water in California. So we're going to really plan ahead. Like we carried so much water with us the whole 3 weeks. So anyway, so we get back to Oregon. Brock goes back to work, and I still have, you know, a couple weeks off before I start teaching. So I decided to do a solo overnight to the coast. And I decided to go on this route that I'd heard some friends talk about that's supposed to be really beautiful and remote. It's called the Nestucca River Route. And it's like south of Hillsborough. So I didn't really plan it very well. I was like, okay, I've been bike touring. I know what to do. I'm going to ride this Nestucca River route out to the coast. I'll camp at Cape Lookout, which I've been to a bunch of times, and I'll bike home on Highway 6. And I just assumed that since the name of the road was Nestucca River,
oh no,
that there would be a river like the whole time. I was like, oh, there's going to be this like rushing river like the entire time I'm out on Nestucca River Road all the way to the coast. So
it was more an ironic name, wasn't it?
Yes, it turned out to be that way. So I packed my Aquamira, like my preferred water purifying stuff, and I had maybe like a bottle of water from Hillsborough. And it's probably 100 degrees that day.
Because Oregon is now 100 degrees.
Oregon is now scorching hot.
Well, and Arizona, Oregon.
So it was now another 100-degree day. And I was like, cool, I'm used to 100 degrees. Like, I can handle that. And there'll be a river soon. So, like, I'm biking through wine country, and I start climbing up Nestucca River Road, and I'm, like, waiting for the river. And I, like, climb and climb and climb, and it's getting hotter. And it was a 3,000-foot climb, which is considerable.
That's a lot.
And
Dude.
Thank you. And before this, I'd also taken the wrong road, so I ended up on this super steep gravel road that I hadn't planned on. So my reserves of energy were more taxed by pedaling, and then
my reserves of energy are being taxed just listening to you climbing 3,000 feet. Okay,
so I had to like even walk my bike up this gravel. It's like I'm walking this bike, and so I'm going up and my water like got lower and lower, and I was like, where the fuck is this river that I've heard so much about? Like, where is Nestucca River? Like, I don't see it. So I like frantically take out my phone, and I'm like looking at the map, and I'm like, where's the water? And I'm like, this is Oregon, and this is like Western Oregon. There's got to be a stream around here. There's no streams, you know, no river. And I see it's like way at the top of the river's way at the top of everything. And there's this big reservoir that the river flows out of. So basically, by the time I get to the top, it's just scorching hot. I have I did save like one tiny gulp of water for myself just in case. And I thought I could flag down a car if I was like actually dying. Because there was a car, maybe it would pass me every hour or something.
Were you just thirsty at this point, or was it like your head like banging and stuff? Where were you at?
It was painful.
Okay.
I wasn't like delirious, like I wasn't imagining oases of water in front of me.
Like Bugs Bunny cartoons or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like Lawrence of Arabia crossing the desert, just like the sun is there. But it was pretty close. Like it was probably the most scared I've ever been.
Interesting.
With losing water. And it was just so weird because because we'd been on a bike tour all summer in a super dry part of the country and we did fine. And B, because it was just an overnight and was like super close to Portland. So anyways, I made it to a stream. I purified a lot of water. I drank it. I was very happy. I was probably almost crying at that point. It was great. But yeah, it was definitely humbling because I was like, oh, I didn't plan this very well.
So moral of this fuck up, what was your takeaway?
Problems can happen to me. I don't always plan perfectly. Like I might plan other trips really great. Moral of the story is, even if you're doing an overnight close to home, look at your maps, look at your details, see where your water is, because you can get, between a rock and a hard place, even if you're only like 50 miles from your house. Oh,
yes.
Bad things can happen right outside your front door.
Isn't that what they say? Like the most likely place for you to get in a vehicular accident or a vehicular collision is like within a mile of your home.
All my bike accidents, I've been in quite a few crashes, and they've all happened in the greater Portland area.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it never on a tour.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fascinating. That's I'm going to use a different Adjective.
Fascinating.
Fascinating.
Hashtag fascinating. Yes, there we go. Maybe we should just all start saying fascinating instead, bro.
Fascinating. So along with
or
that,
would you say it? How would you say fascinating?
Yeah.
Would there be an extra syllable? It's not fun if we don't have a syllable war.
Fascinating.
Fascinating.
There you go.
Ooh, fascinating.
Fascinating. Pronouncing the C.
I'm going to try the almanac.
Yeah, the almanac is pretty
I'm
ridiculous.
thirsty after recounting that story.
The finish on that beer is really, really good.
Yeah.
It's almost got like a clovey kind of finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
Stays
good.
with you longer.
Yeah, so it goes citrus and then goes clovey.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I like it. It's very good. My fuck up in the go off mic while I grab the fine almanac. What is the Farmer's Reserve Citrus? Because they make a few sours. This is a really good one. So I'm in California, in a part of the state that I had never biked in. So everything south of San Francisco was new to me last summer when I did the route. Mm-hmm. And so I was in, I believe it was Santa Barbara County, and there is a portion, I'm going to forget. I had a hotel reservation at the end of this because this is a portion where I did a long day. I think I did 80 plus miles, which for me, fully loaded touring is like crazy. I usually like to average 55, 60, somewhere in that.
It's like 3 hours more than you're usually happy.
Exactly. But I was trying to get away from this incredibly annoying guy. Incredibly
so it had like
annoying.
Social.
It's one of those, one of those stories where it's like this person maybe should or shouldn't be bike touring, or like is not aware of himself in a certain way. Rubs you the wrong way.
I'm not painting with a broad brush. I just want to describe what this gentleman was like. He was an older guy.
You know how old guys are.
You know how old people are. You know how those gray beard dudes are. I have a gray beard. Graying. So so the guy was like really sort of like he was misogynistic. He was rude to this waitress, and he was like he was making like sexual jokes towards this waitress at a restaurant that was near the campground that we were at, and I was just like, I don't want to be associated with this guy at all. And
I'm not with him.
I'm not with him. I'm not interested in this guy. And then he was just sort of like, where are you going to end up tomorrow?
Oh dear.
And so the two other guys that I was with, the two guys that I liked that was there. These were the League of Nations guys. I think you may have heard on the podcast.
I think you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah. So these guys I liked, and they were trying to go a little bit further. And I was like, you know what? Well, I told them, well, not tomorrow, but the next day I was going to end up getting a hotel in whatever California city it was a town, and they were like, oh well, maybe we'll just go there or something like that. And so after that dinner, I said, guys, I'm going to be pushing tomorrow. I'm going to be going. I'm going to be because I can't possibly be with this guy. And he was the type of guy who would like push it up the hills. More power to you, however you tour or whatever. That's cool.
So you can outpace him.
I knew I could outpace this guy in a heartbeat. Yeah. But I also knew that if I went with my original plan, that I would be with this guy the next night by myself, and that was like not acceptable. So I pushed it. And so this is a portion of California. Now, this year was terrible. Last year was still pretty bad though in terms of water and stuff like that. So I'm going through this. This is sort of South Central California, and it's going up and over, I believe, the Santa Barbara Mountains. My California geography.
Was it north of Santa Barbara?
It was. It's Harris Grade Road.
Yeah, no, I think I remember.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking
south
about?
Of Lompoc?
Oh my God.
South of Lompoc.
Brock, was that the descent specialist guy?
No, that was somewhere else.
Oh, somewhere else? Okay.
After I'm done with this, I want the scent specialist guy, because this guy sounds like somebody who I want to make fun of. Okay.
Yeah, you can totally make fun of him.
Actually, I think we may pivot into people I want to make fun of. Yeah. So I got another guy after this. so maybe this episode will
colorful characters on the road.
The title of the show may be like fuck ups and pivoting to people we didn't care for. You know? It's rare. That's the thing. Is like I have to say, when I've been out bike touring, the vast majority of people are awesome. And then every once in a while you meet that one person,
we have
right?
a few.
Okay. Maybe we'll pivot into that because frankly we're all perfect and we didn't fuck up that much, right? Yeah.
That's
so
right.
anyways, except for this one time when I didn't get enough water in this one town. Harris Grade Road is this curvy, weird ass steep climb. It sounds like you both of you, have you been on this?
So wait, north of Lompoc?
Oh, is it south of Lompoc?
I believe it would be north because it was
on the way.
There was a town, there was a city on the other side of Harris Grade Road, like right on the other side.
It's really small.
Small, but there was enough. There was like what's the Chinese food chain that's in every mall?
Oh, Panda Express.
There was a Panda Express there.
Not that I've ever eaten there.
I ate the shit out of some Panda Express after this.
What was your chosen dish?
Orange chicken.
Oh, yeah, I was
getting
gonna
hungry
Orange
say.
chicken for the win.
Chinese
Gonna say.
fast
Yeah.
food.
We can find some later.
Okay, so anyways, I'm going. There's one town that's maybe I want to say maybe 15 miles before Harris Grade Road, and you're just like, I've only got 20 miles left. I've got 2 water bottles. That's plenty for me.
Yeah.
But I'm used to, on the Pacific Coast, right, as you two know, it's usually about 60 degrees, maybe it gets up to
very
65.
temperate, very moderate.
It's really chill. And of course, in the summer on the East Coast, I'm used to 90-something degrees. Here in Portland, of course, it's 8,000 degrees. So,
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, it's going to be fine. I got plenty of water. But then I don't factor in the fact that it's going to be a lot hotter and I'm going to be doing this crazy ass windy climb up Harris Grade Road. So I run out of water on this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm cycling up it and I'm just digging in. And when I'm doing hills, God bless you, Kurt Cobain, because he gets me through it. I pull out some Nirvana.
The pain.
And then, and only the fast, hard songs. Bleach is usually my climbing song.
I was gonna say
my
that,
climbing.
yeah.
You got to go with Bleach. I wish that they would have done a remake of Bleach with, oh my God, Foo Fighters.
Dave Grohl?
Dave on the drums, because I think Dave would have pounded a little more sonically on that album. But
okay.
I digress.
I see.
So I'm climbing up using Bleach, and all of a sudden, I don't know if you've ever had this, where you've had somebody in Lycra come up to you, and all of a sudden they're just climbing up, and they're faster. They're not riding a loaded bike, and all of a sudden they're just like, "Hey, how are you?" As out of your
totally.
And I'm just because I'm losing my mind and thirst, and I almost jump out of my saddle.
Yeah.
I'm so freaked out. Exactly. Thank you. That was much better. That's much better mic technique than I just used right there. But yeah, it was just like. It was, and I realized that it was the dehydration that was making me extra screwed up out of the whole thing. So,
but did it make you more paranoid? A little less? You were more surprised?
I was so out of my element because it's not a terrible climb. I've done way worse. Further north from there is, of course, Middle Finger Hill and the bigger hill, Leggett Hill. Right? Yes. Middle Finger Hill has a name, Rockford.
Is that the one after Leggett?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the purple book has the wrong mileage marker on it.
Oh, we didn't use the purple book.
You were smart.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
We didn't fuck up that way.
Yeah. Well, don't use the purple book.
That's Bicycle Touring the Pacific Coast.
Bicycle Touring the Pacific Coast, which is largely excellent, except for the fact that you're going up using that as your mileage marker, and you're like, awesome, I am almost done according to this mileage marker, and of course the way it curves, you're like, cool, this is the end of it. Whoa! As I hit the microphone,
I'm so excited to be done with this. Yeah,
and then you've got actually 1.8 more miles than the book,
that's considerable.
And you're climbing the whole thing. And if it's 1. It may be 1.2, but it's such.
Maybe that's why everyone talks so much about that hill. Is
it's
because
not the initial hill; it's the second one.
Oh, it's Rockford.
Well, and everyone's expecting to be a certain way because I don't know. Since cycling the Rockies,
right,
those hills aren't so bad. But maybe it's the combination of you don't have the 2 big climbs on the coast. There are a lot of them, though. It's challenging. But it's probably that mess up with the mileage.
And
my
takeaway from that was I always carry a spare bottle that's not in my water bottle holders. It's in one of my bags. It is my emergency bottle.
I remember you mentioning that, and I'd never thought about that until you brought it up.
You did that this summer. You carried so much water. You had 1 on your bike, and then you had 3 in your bags.
My technique with water is I never drink. I keep 3 or 4 bottles that I don't drink.
Yeah.
I just drink the
I'm the
first
same way.
3 or 4 or whatever.
I
think I had 8.
Do you do water bottles? I used to do Camelback or big water bladders.
I like the idea.
I like the idea of it too.
I don't want anything on my back.
Me too, because that was the first summer I ever did bike touring. That's what I had, and I got used to it because I came from sort of the backpacking kind of place, and then I realized no, I kind of like it not having something on my back.
That's
so
the transformation I went through.
Totally, and so now that the water bladder is my backup. And it stays in sort of a back pannier, or at least where it usually sits. It usually sits on my rack pack on top of the 2 rear ones.
Oh, okay.
I didn't tell you this, Brock, but when we were at Mountain Bike Oregon, this is sort of a digression, but that was okay. There was a guy demoing a platypus or bladder, whatever, for a bike, and the drinking tube was attached to the down tube of your bike, and it had a magnet, so you could pull the tube and sip from the bladder, and then it would snap back onto your bike.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's
I was
a great idea.
I want this.
Yeah.
There needs to be more gear that's built for people who are not sort of road bike racer types, because I think a lot of stuff is made for that, but I would like to see more stuff that's made for bike touring that's sort of like what you described
right,
there.
and this guy was more targeting the mountain bike crowd. But it would transfer really well to touring.
We need a system for people who are like, climbing hills, but they're not in the Tour de France, where they could swap out their blood as well.
How can I do that?
That's what we call a callback.
Almanac.
Go check out the Sprocket Podcast for the first part of that.
Right.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift Project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.